Hello, today we are looking at 3 different string libraries ranging from free to a little bit on the pricey side, and they're all from Spitfire Audio. And I guess the real question here is not which is better overall, because I think we all know that Spitfire solo strings will come out top because it's got more articulations, round robins, and all the other bits and bobs, simply because it is around the £300-400 mark, while this one's only 29 and Labs is only free. So we know which is going to be the best. I say the best with inverted commas because how close is the gap going to be between them? And really, what are you doing with these products? Are you really going to use Spitfire strings, solo strings to the fullest, when really you might be better off getting the original's intimate string because it has everything you need and you don't need all the bells and whistles? Maybe you're not seriously going to be getting into this, or you're just dipping your toes, or you just don't have £300-400 to spare. Really, how close is the margin between original intimate strings and Spitfire solo strings? And going a step further, how close is Labs free strings, because there's strings and strings too, which comes with long shorts, pizzicato, and a couple of other little bits and bobs. And not only that, Labs does have a wider range of string products, not just the ones we're going to be looking at. I will briefly show you, but we won't go into detail with those. And so do you really need to pay for anything at all? How close is intimate strings to the Labs version? So it's this video is not a question of which is the best, because I think we all know solo strings is going to come out on top. It's which is best for you and which best suits your needs. I've done walkthroughs on originals, intimate strings, and Spitfire solo strings, so be my guest. If you really want to get into the nitty-gritty of these libraries, go and watch those videos. These are not walkthroughs. This video is going to be a comparison, a side-by-side, looking at the different options within these products and really comparing the sounds apples for apples, pizzicato versus pizzicato, staccatos versus staccatos, and how this video is going to work. We're first, I guess, going to look at the paperwork. What do you actually kind of get? And we're going to try and breeze through that as much as possible, but it's still going to be interesting to kind of listen to and compare, and then really get into the sounds themselves and look for apples. And then really, I'm going to try and form an opinion. I have not formed one at the moment. I've tried to keep my distance from these libraries for a bit so I can have a bit of an honest opinion on what I think is best for the Joe Block, or which library kind of suits what sort of person. I guess that's the right way to say that. Anyway, let's get into the video. So, Spitfire solo strings, what do you actually get with this? Now, this one in particular, you get the individual instruments. I think that's the biggest thing I want to say between this and the originals, and of course the Labs, is the fact that these are individual instruments. You get your violins, violas, cellos, and double bass, and you get 3 different types of violins, and they are solo instruments, and you're getting a very wide range of articulations as well. If we go down to the actual list, go through all the paperwork, actually the good ones to kind of complete this orchestral set are well, you can see them right there, the Spitfire Symphony Brass, Chamber Strings, Woodwinds, and Symphony Strings. Although saying that, I don't own any of these products right here. I use BBC Symphony Orchestra or Albion One or things like that, and this works perfectly with them. So you don't have to own these products to go with this. But as you can see here, just from the actual diagram, how many different articulations you really are getting. You're getting the full range right there. Carlegno harmonics, short noise, staccatissimo, pizzicatos, staccatos, trills. Really the added ones are the trills, the tremolos, what else? Salpont, progressive, and I think most important of all, another huge difference is the legatos, because you don't have legatos with the other ones. And that might be the difference between you getting this and the originals, although saying that the price difference is immense. And there are different types of legatos as well. There's portamento, fingered bowed. This is a very well-rounded library. It's quite an old one, but it's extremely good. Anyway, the actual intimate strings, you're getting 9 different articulations, 3 mic signals. I should say again, you are getting 3 mic signals with this as well. Close, decatory, and is it ambient? I think they call it. Let me double check that for you. Yes, ambient. I got it right. And I feel these mic positions are more honest than the original's intimate strings. The close isn't really that close, in my opinion, while the close here, as you'll see shortly, is close and in your face. Anyway, articulations. You're not getting a legato. They're not individual instruments, but you get your longs. You get your longs concertino, longs half section, which I really like because it is quite intimate. Flautando, which is a Spitfire standard in all honesty. Harmonics, which are fun. Short concertino, and you can actually shorten them to sound more like spiccatos, not just staccatos as well, by tightening up the sound a little bit. And then pizzicato, and they've actually missed one off. Spitfire, if you're watching, you've got collegno as well as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, you've missed one off. You've got collegno there as well, I can promise you that. Third signal's vintage. Oh yeah, that was it. It wasn't an ambient, it's close tree and vintage. I wasn't a big fan of the vintage. They really should have done a closer close and maybe an ambient. But still, let's try not make big opinions right now. So that's on the paperwork. Labs as well. I'll actually just quickly show you here. What we are actually dealing with, if we drop down here, is ensembles, longs, shorts, Bartok Pitts ensemble, pizzicato ensemble, and swells ensemble. So we've not got collegno here, but if you do look, you have all these other string options as well with labs. Although I feel bread and butter wise, if I go back to my start, these are the ones you're going to be using the most. A collegno would be nice, but these are free. You're not paying anything from them. You can download these today, and links, as always, are in the description. So plugins, let's actually look at the different plugins. We've looked at this one. If we just click on one, for example, like shorts, I think, yeah. You've got the mod wheel, which does something which we'll find out soon. Reverb and tightness. Tightness is nice, especially with shorts. If we then move over to the intimate strings, here you've got your 3 mic positions. You have all your different articulations up here. Spitfire's dedicated plugin. Whether you like that or not is your opinion. I'm mixed, in all honesty. You have reverb, tightness, and release. Always nice to see. And then finally, the good old-fashioned contact. Solo strings, you have your wide range of articulations. As you can see here are individual instruments. There are advanced options as well with individual articulations. The legatos with the total performers. I'm personally not a fan of the total performers. I find them a little bit unpredictable for myself, but I do love the legatos. They're very fun to play with. And then a wide range of other patches for light resources, economic, time machine, especially if you have a computer with not a lot of power. When I was using 8 GB of RAM, this was a lightsaver? No, a life savior. Although saying that, this is the actual general patch here. You can turn articulations off to save RAM as well. So, general overview, you can see the mic positions, you can see the wide range of articulations. Let's start doing apples for apples and looking at individual sounds, starting with labs over here. And I think shorts is a really good place to start, actually. No mic positions, remember. Mod wheel probably does something to do with our velocity range, but let's just have a little tinker and a little play and start forming some opinions. So beautiful dry sound, and it's very easy to add a little bit of reverb to get a little bit more space to your sound. And note this is free. That's probably a little bit too much reverb for me. It's a shame you can't actually change the type of reverb, but what does the mod wheel do? Yeah, something to do with velocity range. Beautiful sound, exactly what you need for something at a bass level. Tightness wise, you can cut into the sound a little bit, which gives you a lot more tighter, a lot more spiccato-like sound, while that's a lot more loose. So you do have that little range there, and it's definitely worth messing with. Of course, we don't have a release for this one. So moving into the intimate strings, you do have an automatic setup, bit of close, and a lot of decatry, and there is a baked-in reverb, although if we take the reverb off, let me actually show you it with the reverb. Bit of reverb, but even then with it taken off, you do get Air Studios Hall, or whatever room they recorded this in, Air Studio. And it's a bit roomy for me, but then even if we just stick the close on and do a little bit of a different mix, you still have this intimate room, and I wish it could just get a little bit closer. Even Labs ones is a little bit closer in my opinion. And I think you do have dynamic layers here. You definitely have that top bit. And a little bit more of a quiet sound as well. Of course, with the mod wheel, similar to Labs, you have that control over the velocity there. And you can affect the tightness as well to do something very similar, where we have a more spizzicato sound, and I almost feel like we can tighten it even more with an intimate strings compared to Lab, because that's the tightest there. And if we move back into Labs very quickly and go on the tightness right here, I don't know actually, and the panning as well, actually I just realized this from the comparison. I think I prefer the panning of Labs. It's more honest, while intimate strings, I did complain about this in the actual video I did on it, everything sounds very much in the center, which I really wish you had individual sounds sounding from their actual places. But that's that. Let's actually now move into solo strings, which we have a couple different options actually for the shorts. I know we have the concertino, but with the intimate strings, but this one we actually have spiccatos and staccatos, and you can mess with the tightness as well. And we have the wide range of mic positions as well to go with. And so we can really start messing with those. So apples for apples, let's just go with a close so you can just see how intimate it is. And we'll go with the staccatos. Right in your face, and I know there's baked-in reverb, so let's try and turn that off as well. No, there's not. That's the room. And that almost sounds quite unpleasant, but that is because it is an honest close mic. That is how you'd close mic violin, in my opinion. But there's your decatry, and there's that very heavy pan, because that's honestly where it sits, where the violin sits. Very similar to actually Labs. And remember, you do have the individual instruments as well. And the spiccato, well, actually you should note that round robins is 4 there, spiccato of 8 round robins. And it's a lot tighter sound than the staccato, which I feel is quite loose. Although actually, side by side, I don't know if you're noticing much. It is just that little bit more tighter. Just to show off another instrument, I will actually go into the individual articulations, cello, and load the spiccatos for here. And I know I haven't shown the ambient mic yet as well, but I think we'll do that right here. Remove that. And the beauty of Contact, actually, we can actually go in and stack multiple ones. So if I want to go and get another short spiccato, I will drop that in here. And I think I will go for a more intimate sound here. Remove that very quickly and make sure that my MIDI is omni on that as well. And you'll hear both played at once. And this beautiful panning from where the instruments should actually sit, And you do have this wide range of sounds as well, from very, very close to back of the room. And I really like these honest mic positions. And out of every Spitfire library, Solo Strings to me has the best mic positions, because the closest close, the Decca Trees middle, the ambient is at the back, and they actually sound like that. So there's kind of apples for apples with those sorts of sounds. Labs has the panning right, Intimate Strings not so much. Solo Strings has a bit more of a range. I want to say Intimate Strings is sitting in the middle for me here, but it is, but Labs is very closely under that. I actually prefer the closeness of the sound that we get with the Labs. That's very nice and close, and you can add your own reverb or built-in reverbs, and it has that nice crisp sound, while Intimate Strings, I feel, is being a little bit more finessed, but you do have the concertina ones as well. And as I said, it doesn't get much closer than that, and they just seem to put in a lot of reverb. And it almost seems a little bit quieter as well. Is what it is. Anyway, what else are we going to be looking at? Let's look at some longs. I really like the longs half section when it comes to this one, because you just get a more intimate feel, which this says it's Intimate Strings, but I feel it could be more intimate, if you get me. And then in Solo, we are going to be looking at a legato. I know it has its own longs, but if you really want, you know, the main difference is kind of these legatos here. I'm not going to do a total performer, simply because I actually really don't like them, and I struggle a little bit with them. Let's turn these off and then load just a violin legato. And while that's loading in the background, it is resource heavy. We're just going to go with your standard long here. And so that's a mix of everything. Let's start with our labs and just have a little play. So what I love about that is you have this full range with the mod wheel right there. And they're beautiful sounds. Now there's no vibrato control, which I feel is going to be the main difference between everything here, but you do have a release control there. So if you want something a bit more legato-like, you can make it flow a little bit better. While if we move into the intimate, again, there is no legato, and I am using half sections here. Reverb, you can control the release again, and there are multiple options here. You have the long concertino, flautando, half section, harmonics. Although I shouldn't say harmonics, I know it's a long, but that's a different kettle of fish. Let's just have a little play with this. Beautiful, and I'm just going to move back into labs because I didn't really play the lower range, so you can hear a bit more of that. I'm feeling between labs and intimate strings there's a very small difference. Yes, you're getting the added mic positions and maybe a library with a bit more finesse, but the actual quality of the labs in comparison is very minute. And I'm noticing a little bit less of a difference. Surprisingly, although solo strings is still miles away, as we will now see, but are you really going to utilize this to this fullest? Okay, Decatry is already loaded. Let's just show you what a legato really does sound like. Now, ignore my terrible playing, but the big difference really between the Labs intimate strings and then solo strings is the fact that now you have this vibrato control right here and these beautiful portamento and just a lot more of an intuitive legato. It sounds realistic, and you have this for each individual instrument as well, violin, viola, cello. So you have this range of legatos. They are resource heavy, or can be. I think at the moment this is only 319 megabytes of RAM loaded in, but multiple mic positions. This can be really intimate and close in your face or ambient. So you have that range. Yes, of course, you do have as well a long patch of its own right. Plenty to choose from, as you can probably see from the screen right now. But let me just load up a fresh one and show you, I guess, apples for apples, because the others don't have legatos, although it is worth mentioning and bringing up. Add that a little bit of close, I think, this time as well. And just, of course, you got your release control there. And actually, with the longs here, you do have a vibrato control, which might have been nice to see with the intimate strings as well, as maybe a vibrato control, just to add a little bit more, but I know that's probably a lot of work. So of course here we have the extra vibrato control as well, which is nice to see, and a wide mix of sounds. I feel as well with solo strings, and this I guess is a con, is it's going to take a lot more work for your sound. There is so much you have control of: vibrato, dynamics, expression, the different mic positions, and you really have to get into the nitty gritty and spend some time with it, as you're probably hearing my demos with this. And I must admit, I probably haven't shown you the first one I did because I'm messing up, because it's a lot harder to control everything. And if you're not using the vibrato, the dynamics, if you're not getting into the nitty gritty of solo strings, you're going to be missing out, and you're not going to get a good sound, and you're not going to be using this to the fullest. While with Labs and intimate strings, they've taken some control away from you, but you can get a better sound quicker, I feel, until you get more familiar with controlling vibrato dynamics and getting more into the nitty gritty. So if you want something quick fired, you might want to go with something more like intimate strings, or stick with Labs if you want something quick and you're not wanting to spend that time really working the sounds over and getting into it. And I should add as well, I never use solo strings on its own unless I'm doing, I guess, a very intimate piece. I'll normally layer other stuff on top of it, maybe some BBC Symphony Orchestra to add more texture, to add more to it as well. I guess that's a lie. My solo pieces, I do use it standalone. Yeah, you get where I'm coming from, though. You get where I'm coming from. I guess the last thing I really want to go through on all of these is the pizzicatos. I should say, yes, you've got Carlagnos there as well, but this isn't a full walkthrough. We're just trying to look at sounds and kind of go through little bits and bobs, because we do have ensemble pizzicatos. Yes, let's go with that one. And then solo, we're just going to pick, let's go with the viola. We haven't actually gone with the viola much yet, although saying that, actually I am going to go with the big patch, because you do have a little almost added feature with these, although I think you do get it with Labs as well. Let's have a quick look. It's like a massive pluck when you hit the end of the pit. So that's the pits, but I think you do have Yeah, that Bartok Pizz, which you get on the high end of the velocity with Spitfire Solo. If we just pick the pizzicato, and you'll see these two flick between each other here. See that top end, you just have that harsh pizzicato, Bartok pizzicato sound. While there you have that lovely intimate sound. And I should add as well, actually I don't use this a lot, but you can use this with mixing your sound. If you want it close, turn that right up there, far here, and it will actually automatically move these around accordingly. So if you want something maybe a little bit closer but not too close, you'll notice over here it kind of mixes the close and decary together. So there is this lovely little feature here for somebody who maybe doesn't want to get too much into the mic positions. So that's a nice added feature, but it will build up RAM quite quickly because sometimes it will use all three. But beautiful solo pizzicato sound, and I think it'd be bad for me now not to show you one from Intimate Strings, which those are three very different pizzicato sounds. That's a very interesting comparison, actually. I guess this is more of an honest ensemble pizzicato, while Labs is almost more intimate. I think there's less instruments. While this feels more like an ensemble. Still a very beautiful sound, don't get me wrong. And go for a little bit of Labs again. Again, I'm struggling to see a difference between the Intimate Strings and Labs, and that's what I think is coming off. What I'm getting from actually creating this video, the opinion I'm forming is really it's between the Labs and the Intimate Strings. Solo strings, I think, is in a different ballpark, and maybe I shouldn't have added it to this video because it really is completely different with the legatos, with the amount of different articulations you're getting. It really is on a whole different level, and the mic positions as well are actually so much better than with the Intimate Strings. It really is the difference between £29 and what, 340, 400 pounds, and really there is no comparison. In those two, you know, solo strings is always going to win against Intimate Strings, except for price and budget. And Intimate Strings isn't really solo, and maybe one day they'll come out with the solo originals for £29, dollars and euros, and that will be a better comparison. But I feel here it's Labs versus Intimate Strings, and I almost want to say Labs because I don't know, it's just, I feel it's more honest. It's smaller, it's more intimate, it's got some gorgeous sounds, and yes, Intimate Strings is, I guess, a step up. You have those mic positions, but if you see my walkthrough on Intimate Strings, I don't know. I guess the choice is yours, at least from what we've gathered from this video and the three different sounds we've kind of gone through. You do have more sounds and more choices here. You have this Collegno. So that's Collegno, but you can turn it up if you want it louder. Collegno is naturally a quiet sound, but you can turn it up. So if you want those added extra sounds, if you're getting the most out of Labs and you've really worked the Labs over and you want a little bit more, it might be worth investing in Intimate Strings. But I would say if you've not messed with the Lab strings, if you've not messed with Strings 1, well, it's not called Strings 1, it's just called Strings and Strings 2. If you're not intimately familiar and work these over, then don't get Intimate Strings. Work with these first. Work with these, and then if you feel you really want a little bit more, go for Intimate Strings. The mic position's a bit of a gimmick, I feel, with this. You do have the added articulations and maybe some more round robins and dynamic layers. And then if you really want to invest, if you really want to be a composer long-term, solo strings. This is a great product, and it's a staple, a Spitfire staple that's been out for years. And honestly, there's nothing quite like it out there. Believe me, I've looked. But thank you so much for watching. I hope this video has helped form an opinion, at least on these 3 products, and where you should go with strings within Spitfire audio, at least solo and intimate ones. But thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.